Andrew Luck going back to someone that he knows very, very well, that being Frank Reich. So if you missed it, Troy Taylor, the head coach of Stanford, was fired amongst allegations of Joe, I don't know how else to say this other than he was talking to female employees very harshly, allegedly. With that being said, there was an interim coaching vacancy at Stanford, and the last head coach that coached Andrew Luck was Frank Reich. He's going to be taking over that interim role. I guess your thoughts on this one-year deal, which, by the way, arguably the worst graphic I've ever seen by On3. Rental? I mean, that's a little disrespectful, but Frank Reich is going to be there for a year. A rental.
He is only coming for a year. He is a rental. He's a rental coach.
Bro. This is an enterprise rental car, okay? Like,
it kind of is rental enterprise.
What if they
enterprise
do good and you want to hire him full time? That's the argument that I'm going to make.
Well, part of me feels like this was mutual, though. Like, seeing the headline and reading the news on this, part of me thinks that this was him saying, all right, I need something to do for this upcoming year. I didn't get hired. I need to build a little bit of equity back before I get back to the NFL. This feels like that this was a decision by both sides. I'm sure that Andrew Luck tried to convince him to do it full time and to come back fully and be the head coach. But the decision here is that it's only going to be for 1 year. I don't hate this hire. I'm sure that there's people who are going to complain and say, oh, he was so awful with the Panthers.
He wasn't awful in Indy, though.
He wasn't. He was a great coach in Indianapolis, and I think that that's easily forgotten. Having more professional coaches in the sport is a good thing. Having more coaches that are from the professional background is only going to help the sport be better, and also these teams that struggle at recruiting be better. It's a very unique approach on how Stanford has gone about this entire offseason with Andrew Luck, with him, all this shit. So this could end up crashing and burning, but I think at the very least, it raises the floor a little bit from what happened with Taylor.
Well, there's a couple of things that I want to bring up here. Number one, I actually like Frank Reich a lot as a coach. Look, he went to Indianapolis as the head coach and was hoping that Andrew Luck would be his quarterback. Then he abruptly retires, and then his career takes a step back. He never probably would have taken the job if you would have told him within a 9-month span that Andrew Luck would be retiring, right? Nobody would have taken that job thinking that you have to rebuild with a quarterback. I think a couple of things here. Number one, this feels like to me that Andrew Luck is returning a favor, right? Because a coach comes in, wants to rebuild with you. He wants to bring you to a Super Bowl. He wants to get to the playoffs. You abruptly retire for your own personal reasons, and good for you. Good for you for making that decision. He was taking a beating. Can I tell you what this smells like to me, though? This smells like to me that Andrew Luck leaked this story to get Troy Taylor out because they did not fire him until it was made public. And then he brings his own guy in. Joe, we're talking about a 2 to 3 day span that this is finalized now. And you don't expect it from Andrew Luck. But I would remind you, his dad was a sitting AD for over 30 years. And who else to get knowledge from than someone who's been in that exact situation before? Rich Rod.
I don't think that premise is arbitrary, but my only counter to that is you have to hire Frank Reich because there's no freaking options. He had to go with somebody that was one of his guys. We're in April right now. Who was he going to hire at the end of March?
Joe, we literally have colleagues of Troy Taylor coming out saying this beats everything that we know of him.
That's what we talked about last week when we dove into this.
So if you have that, Joe, that'd be like somebody calling me about you and saying, bro, Joe DeLeon just did X, Y, and Z. I'm like, first off.
All right. Yeah, hold on. Let's not use this.
Okay. Well,
a bad example.
Okay. Well, let's do this. I'll just use me. That's like somebody calling you and saying,
sure,
hey, Blake did X, Y, and Z. And you're like, okay, that didn't happen. That goes everything against what I know about him, and I've been around him for a long time. That makes zero sense here. Okay? It's like the Cat Williams skit with the white person. He murdered who? It makes no sense. It is an interesting timeline, though, that this gets leaked. They don't fire him until it gets leaked, or they move on from him until it gets leaked. And then the guy's last head coach, who just so happens to be stumbling here, becomes the new interim. Now, I don't think that there's another way that you could tag him other than interim. Now, I do think Andrew Luck, let's just say my conspiracy theory, which is probably what it is, isn't true. Okay? It is what it is. They've made him the sitting GM over all football relations. Every move that they make is going on to him. And he goes and gets the one guy that he knows that can take this job over. He's trying to control the situation, is what I'm trying to get at. I feel like that this is a control hit. And look, they say they're going on a national search. We'll see. He's not firing Frank, right? I mean, he's probably hoping that they do very well and that he can sell, that they're going to build with him. I don't think that this is a one-year deal. I really, really don't. I really believe you mean to tell me that the guy that you're bringing in right now, and I understand you're in a really tough spot, do you really think that he doesn't want this to work?
Well, I'm sure that he does want it to work. It partially reminds me of when Tom Brady got his involvement with the Raiders and Antonio Pierce was out really quickly, and then they bring in Pete Carroll in the path and how quickly that came together, or
right.
How that came together. He was trying to get somebody that he felt comfortable with hiring as the next head coach and not going with the sitting head coach. The other part about this, though,
it doesn't happen to your point. Like this happened in a weekend.
Okay. I'm against this conspiracy theory, though, because for two reasons. We talked about it last week, that he was previously issued a warning that if he didn't improve his behavior, that they were going to fire him. And they fired him because this was a second violation and accusation of him speaking inappropriately to his colleagues. I'm not saying that shows proof that he did it. I think that it's a little odd that you do hear from a lot of people that have been around him that were confused by this because he has never been this disrespectful. Outside of that, though, I think that the fact that the interim tag is placed on this and it's so blatantly out there of like, hey, this is just for this season. I do agree with you that there's probably a hope from Andrew Luck that they are successful, but they wouldn't have hired him just for the short term. If there was some sort of hope, if I was Frank Reich and I was Frank Reich's agent, I would not have agreed to something like this if he hoped to be there long term.
Well, again, goes to my point though. You hire him within a weekend, right? Which let's call it what it is. We've been around enough coaching searches to understand, interim or not, that these decisions make more than a day and take more than a day. They take more than a weekend. I mean, contracts have to be signed, contracts have to be given, agreements have to be met. You have to, sell them on wanting to do this. This is what it, look, call me a conspiracy theorist, that's fine. What it feels like to me on the surface is that they had a situation that they did not feel that they can get from out of, and it being on the West Coast, in a West Coast school, they didn't believe in the vision. They gave Andrew Luck this GM role. So he's like, listen, you know what? We're going to start cleaning house. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to fire Taylor. We're going to move on from this entire situation, and we're going to bring somebody in that, at least for the interim, at minimum, can help us for this year, and then we start rebuilding. Now, Andrew Luck's on this campaign. I don't know if you've been seeing. He's going to Bussin' with the Boys. He's going with all these different places trying to raise money for NIL. He's like, if I'm going to be the GM.
Well, he shouldn't need to raise money. There should be there are plenty of former football player alumni that had made plenty of money. It's kind of depressing that he's trying to do that, but yeah. I know.
Well, for sure. I mean, but he's trying to get the face out there for Stanford football, regardless. Even if he's not needing to raise the money, he's trying to get his face out. When's the last, Joe, before this happened, Andrew Luck literally was invisible. No, he was nowhere to be seen. He's trying to be out in the public eye to make Stanford football relevant. And listen, I'm not saying that he's right or wrong in this decision. But what I am saying is it feels like to me that there was a lot going on behind the scenes, and then you're just putting the cherry on top for me and hiring your last head coach that just so happened to be available.
Okay. I got a counter take here.
Okay.
I would argue that this maybe actually plays into and clearly displays Andrew Luck's naivete, his lack of experience and maybe even him panicking in the situation. He's presented with the investigations, the context of what has happened in the past, immediate panic reaction. We have to fire him. We can't deal with this. And he puts his name on it for a reason, because the school, maybe they felt uncomfortable with him, but they were not the ones who pushed him. And they said, if you're going to fire him, you have to come out and say that it was done by you. He then panics as quickly as possible, calls the first guy that he knows that's available looking for a job, and hires him on the spot, instead of doing a long process to look for a coach. Now, I know that I don't know what their
long process though. I mean,
I know he doesn't. I don't know when their spring practices are. That was probably part of the motivation.
It's got to end by the end of April. I mean, they got to start now.
I'm just trying to say that the way that this is operated is against every precedent for firing a coach, regardless of when they were fired, and then hiring the next guy. I think that this is a clear picture of Andrew Luck not knowing what he's doing.
Well, he's also I don't know about that. I mean, again, it feels like a move to me that see, I'm on the opposite end. I feel like it's a move that a sitting AD of 30 years, his dad, would have pulled. Like, I don't think Andrew Luck does not call his dad and say, hey, what would you do here? I don't think in any world that like that exists. Okay, you could be right, but listen, we didn't even talk about him being a coach. Okay, we brought this in a whole different direction. As a coach, I think it's great. I mean, I quite frankly, I think it might be an upgrade. Okay, offensive play calling, we'll see what goes on there. They do not have the players, so they still might not win a game. It's a tough situation to be in, but it's a full-on